Be quick, but never in a hurry. I like that. So in wrapping up, I mean, that's a great tip right there. But what, actually, let me rephrase that. So with that tip, be quick and never in a hurry. What would you like our listeners, their last little bit about builders or maybe like things to look for, red flags, like just leave that last little bit of wisdom for people wanting to build?
Yeah. So, on that, I'll go with the green flag first.
I like that.
Be quick, but never in a hurry. And what I mean by that in this scenario is if you are looking to build, if it's something you've been thinking about for years and, you sit awake at night and you go through Pinterest and you look at homes and you look at designs, you just think, oh, I've always wanted that. Someday I'll have that. You're missing out. And you're going to miss out fast because someday is going to be gone very, very quickly along the Wasatch Front. So don't be in a hurry. Don't pick the wrong builder. Do your homework. Find out where do you want to live. We've got amazing communities from Saratoga Springs and Lehigh, South Jordan, Riverton, West Jordan, Kaysville, Centerville, all these amazing areas. And so, reach out to us if you've been thinking about building and get your land secured right now so that 10 years from now, you're not going, oh, someday became never. Because it will, over time, it will become never. Some of the red flags that you'll see, and I won't talk about any builders specifically here. But when you're going through a model home, that home is the best representation of the quality your builder can deliver for you. So if you're going through a model home and transition areas are not well thought out, that's a huge red flag. And what I mean by transition areas, entry hallway into the home. Where does that come in at? Are you staring directly at the dirty dishes in the kitchen? Okay, that was not a well thought out entry point. As you open fridges, ovens, dishwashers, how is the transition space behind those? Are you having to pivot to the left to open your dishwasher and then sneak around it to put the pans away? There's not a well thought out layout. And that's what you're gonna see on these production builders more than anything, because an old building saying, caulk and paint will make it what it ain't, okay? You can hide a bad job with enough finish work. You can. You can put lipstick on a pig here. And there's a lot of builders in this state that do. But what you can't do is you cannot improve a poorly thought out plan. And so that is the biggest red flag, and you're gonna see it the most in the kitchen, the laundry room, and the primary suite. If you don't walk into those spaces and feel open and that multiple people can move around, if you walk into a dining nook and you cannot figure out how you're gonna open that atrium door without smacking your table, those are red flags. As you're picking your builder, don't worry so much about how it looks. Worry about how it feels when you walk through it, and worry about how you're gonna use the space and just be comfortable. Because there's nothing worse than thinking that you've moved into your dream home, and the first time you go to cook dinner and you open the double oven and you realize, oh my gosh, the hallway is completely cut off to my sink. Because who put these ovens here, right? It's little things like that. So if your oven is on this side and your island's on that side, you don't want a 30-inch transition zone, all right? You want to be 40, possibly 48. So little things like that. Focus on dimensions, focus on how the home is going to live. And then from there, you can make anything look pretty if it's designed well and it's built well.
I think that's great advice to end on. So thank you, Cash, for coming and sharing with our listeners all about how to build their dream home.
Thank you for the time. I appreciate being here.
So,
Can I ask you a quick question though? Yeah. On say you don't finish the basement, a couple years down the road, Can they call you back up to finish the basement?
Afraid not. You know, we'll have some wonderful recommendations, but I will say this, and this might tick some people off. If your builder is not finishing the basement and they're charging you a lot of money to finish that basement, that is a huge profit margin. It is not, it is not that expensive to finish a basement
Really?
with carpet, paint, and drywall when you're already there. You know, you've already got the labor there. Your transportation costs can be cut in half because you're just ordering the same amount of material. So your material cost goes up and your labor cost goes up, but you save on so many other costs when you finish it while you're building. So, you know, you hear about these builders who, you know, will finish your basement for 60 grand. There's a very big margin in that 60 grand. So we will not come and finish it after the fact because we don't pay our teams a low enough wage to make that worth it. You know, does that make sense? Where our skilled craftsmen are not going to come back and do your drywall and your paint. You can hire somebody else to do that. So, you know, finish it up front if you can. And if you can't, if the budget is, you know, a basement's typically going to be, depending on the size of the home, you might save between 40 and 80 grand not finishing your basement. And that's assuming, you know, bedrooms, bathrooms, open space. That's not factoring if you want a gym or you want a theater. If you're going to do that stuff,
Yeah.
you can raise those costs quite a
Yeah.
bit. But you know, you're almost always going to be better off financially just having the builder finish that basement up front than you would be to finish it on your own after the fact.
And so at Symphony, though, you guys finish every basement?
Standard.
Standard.
It's not even
every basement.
yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see how that's not a popular opinion to share,
It's not.
but I'm glad that you're sharing it for our
I've
listeners.
never understood it. It builds so much value. I mean, you double the usable square footage in your home. You double it, right? Just finish the basements, especially on a Rambler. If you've got a Rambler with an unfinished basement, you've got a 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath home. You know, at least on a 2-story, you've probably got 3 or 4 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms. But when you don't finish a Rambler, you just built half a home.
Do you run into water level issues with 10-foot high basements, water table?
No. And so typically what we do and what we prefer to do is not to drop your home further, but raise it out of the ground.
Oh,
So the foundation would stay ideally at the exact same spot. But then when we build the plates, it would be a 10-foot plate that your basement gets. So there's not usually any. If you were to drop it, it could be a concern. But we wouldn't drop it unless, for some reason, we had to, like a city ordinance, you know, mandated the home could only be this high, and you know the roof line was having a problem there. But one thing that's really cool about Symphony, and this year it's especially true, is water, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, apparently we're going to have the worst flooding we've had since 1984, which I can't actually tell you that I remember that. But one thing Symphony does that's really special is we wrap the entire home in a footing foundation drain. And
What's that
so, yeah, so when we pour the foundation, we take this big pipe that's corrugated, and then we wrap it in kind of a material to keep things from growing, keep sediment out. And then we cover it in gravel, and then we fill it. And then we tie that drain into the window wells throughout the home, and that drain is gravity fed to the front. And so, you know, if your kid sticks a hose in a window well, that drain system is going to actually remove the water from that well and gravity fed disperse it to the front of the home. I would not encourage you to let that hose stay in there all night, but it'll keep up with it for quite some time. And the same thing's true with water runoff. As water runoff is coming, and if it's coming close to your home, that foundation drain is designed to capture all of that water before it ever enters the basement. So that's kind of part of the Symphony standard that sets us apart from a lot of other builders too, is we don't want leaky basements.
yeah. I've heard of strip drains on parts of it.
Mhm.
I've never heard them tied into the window wells. That's
Yeah.
really cool. 'Cause that's where it happens most of the time.
Almost always, yeah. And we wrap the entire home with that. So you can actually go into our model homes and you'll see the window well, you'll see the gravel bed, and you can usually see a small black pipe cover, or I should say a hose cover. And that's sitting there designed for the emergency.